At authorsbroadcast.com, we produce and display book video trailers. In this episode of Author Showcase, we hear from some authors we recently met at the 2014 Chicago Tribune Printers Row Lit Fest. Grab a pencil and paper so you'll be prepared to make a note of some interesting books you might like to learn more about. Now, enjoy Author Showcase. School suspensions result in lost revenue for schools and school systems and removes offending students from the learning environment, which further impedes their educational progress. In this excerpt from a recent interview, school social worker Michelle Rappaport offers an alternative to school suspension.
My name is Michelle Rappaport. I'm a school social worker, and I've been a school social worker for 26 years. I work with both regular education and students in special education. I've worked with students from early childhood through the high school years. I've noticed over the years that a lot of students have been suspended. Unfortunately, when they come back from the suspension, nothing changes. It's the same thing as when they left, and in some cases, it's worse because nothing was resolved. They're anxious about coming back to school. They don't know what the other person is feeling if somebody else is involved. If it was a teacher or an adult involved, they don't know how the teacher or adult is feeling towards them. And so they come back and nothing's resolved. In looking at that pattern and how things have worked out, I've decided that the best thing was to develop a curriculum. And the curriculum is called Building Bridges, an Alternative to School Suspension. The curriculum is based on restorative justice and cognitive behavioral principles. The restorative justice piece is where the students learn to make things right, and I'll explain that in a minute. The cognitive behavioral principles are where the students are learning to take responsibility for their behavior, as well as they are learning to process. They're learning to look at their behavior, they're looking to look at the results of their behavior, they look at how their behavior affects other people, how other people who are involved feel about it, and how they feel about their behavior as well. The restorative justice piece is learning to make things right. And there's two parts to that. The first thing is when somebody else is involved is, many times when something occurs, they've caused harm to that person. It could be physical harm and it could be emotional harm. So what the students are taught to do is to make things right. The other piece of that is when there's damage to property is restitution. So those students who have maybe caused damage, put a hole in the wall, broken something, will be given the opportunity outside of school hours, usually after school or during lunchtime, which is their time, to either fix what has been broken, if it's possible to fix it, put drywall up, fix something like a chair or something that may have been broken, or to do something for the school to make up for what has been done. The curriculum is based on three different parts. The first part is the thinking sheets. And the thinking sheets, there's two different types of thinking sheets. The first one is where nobody is involved. And that thinking sheet is basically where the student will take responsibility. They'll look at what they did, and they'll talk about how they felt about what happened, and then how they're going to change it or make it better for the next time. Now, the other thinking sheet has an empathy piece involved. And not only are they taking responsibility for what they did and how they felt about it, now they're looking at how did the other person feel about what occurred. They're also looking at how did it affect other people. So when you get into a fight or something like that happens within a school, it's not just between two people. Maybe adults get involved and they have to break it up. Maybe parents are called when something happens. If the police are involved, the students who witness the fight are affected by this as well. So it gives the students an opportunity to see that their behavior is not occurring in isolation. It's actually occurring with lots of other pieces involved. The last part of the thinking sheet is where they take a look at what they can do to make things better, and then what the other person can do. So that kind of leads into the second piece, which is the mediation and the processing with the other person involved. The processing, which I've just explained, is the first part of the Bridges curriculum. Now the next step can be one of a couple things, and it's really up to the student of what they want to do next. The choice can be mediation if another person is involved. It can be the worksheets, or it can be the scenarios. The scenarios are when the students will have an incident that is very similar to their incident, and they would answer questions based on the scenario. And what this does is it gives the student an opportunity as a third person to kind of look outside of the situation in which they were involved in and be able to give advice, which is advice that they can use in the future. The worksheets, which is another part of the curriculum, is divided into different types of worksheets based on what the students' needs are. A lot of it is based on self-awareness, giving the students the opportunity to look at why they're doing what they're doing. It may look at relationships that they're in, the types of relationships they have. It may look at how they treat other people. It may be looking at how they view themselves. Other worksheets just look at maybe whether or not they're bullies, or if they're aware that they're bullying somebody. The third part of the Bridges program is the mediation piece, and this can occur at any time throughout the Bridges day. And the mediation is really an important part. That's a really big piece of the restorative justice, and that's where the student is learning to make things right. And these behaviors, the incidents, they occur all over the country. Students are having problems with other people. Students are getting into fights, they're threatening, they're getting into arguments, and part of the problem is that they don't have the skills. They don't know how. People make mistakes all the time, but they don't have the skills to make things right, to go back and to say, hey, look, I did this and this is why, and why did you say that to me, or why did you do that to me? And that's a really, really important piece. So what we do is we have a mediation in which the two students are in the room together, or an adult and a student. There's at least 2 adults in the room when this occurs, and the students then have the opportunity to talk to the other person. At this point, the students may start with, well, why did you say that? Or why did you do that? Many times they find out that it was a misunderstanding or misperception. Other times they might find out that they were kind of set up by a third or fourth party where they were both told things by other people that weren't even true. And sometimes it's just they decide that they don't like each other, and that's okay. Because one of the big things that we tell the students when they come into the mediation is, we're not looking for you to be friends. You don't have to hang out on Friday night. You don't have to be Facebook friends. But you have to get along, and you have to be respectful in the school setting.
Khaki Equals Killer, the third novel in the Color of Evil series by Connie Corcoran Wilson, follows the adventures of young Tad McGreevy and friends through the second semester of their senior year that includes romantic encounters, abduction, and a terrifying prom night. John Land, best-selling author of the Caitlin Strong series, says Wilson's work is a subtle hybrid mix of science fiction, thriller, and horror in the tradition of Philip K. Dick and Ray Bradbury. Gary Braver, author of Flashback, says Wilson's characterizations come alive on the page. After spending 33 years teaching students in this age range, she knows what she's talking about. The Color of Evil series is old-school psychological horror, artfully blended with new-school shocks and twists. Bravo, says Jonathan Maybury, New York Times best-selling author and Bram Stoker winner. Tad sees colorful auras around people that tell him whether that person is good or evil. For Tad, red signals violence, khaki equals killer, and it's a color he wants to avoid. Find out who lives happily ever after, and who does not, in Khaki Equals Killer, available online and at your favorite bookseller.
Please be sure to send your feedback by visiting authorsbroadcast.com. We also invite you to download our free mobile app so you can interact with us and watch episodes of Authors Showcase on your smartphone or tablet. This is a perfect option for both our Chicago viewers and our nationwide audience watching us online or at YouTube to watch past episodes, current episodes, and future episodes of Authors Showcase as they're presented. The free mobile app is available at iTunes for Apple devices and Google Play for Android. Simply search Authors Broadcast. In addition to watching book-related videos, you'll also have easy access to our Facebook page and a comprehensive list of book events happening nationwide. So if you're an author or book lover, grab your smartphone or tablet, go to your app store and search Authors Broadcast now. Then let us know what you're reading and what you think of our show. School suspensions result in lost revenue for schools and school systems, and removes offending students from the learning environment, which further impedes their educational progress.
The last piece is once the students have finished the Bridges program, and the Bridges program can last anywhere from an hour and a half to 2.5 hours, depending on the needs of the student and depending on the behavior and what occurred. Once they finish with the Bridges program, then they have the opportunity to do work. The big thing with suspension, the real problem with suspension, is kids are out of school. And when they're out of school, there's a loss of academic time. They usually don't bring work home, so they're not doing work at home. And then they come back to school and they're farther behind. And a lot of times, some of the kids that are getting suspended are kids who really need to be in school. In the Bridges program, not only do they have the opportunity to do the work that they're missing in school, they have an adult there that can work with them. So if they need a little extra help in math, or if they need a little extra help in English, there's somebody there who can help them. And the really nice thing about it is, in most of your public high schools, there's teachers that have free periods throughout the day, math teachers, English teachers, science teachers, that can actually be called in to help those students with their needs. So not only are they in school and doing work, they're getting additional help that they need with the academics. I'm a school social worker in Illinois, and I don't know if you know this, but recently Illinois has passed some new legislation. And you know what it states? It says that all schools in the state of Illinois are going to be required to submit all of their exclusionary discipline. And this includes both suspensions and expulsions. In addition, they're also looking at any disproportionality in the suspensions, because they found that minorities and students with disabilities really have a higher rate of suspensions than the regular population. The top 20% of schools that fall into that category are going to be required to come up with a plan. And I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but when I came up with the curriculum, there's really not a lot out there. There's some things on prevention, and there are other things that are available for the school to get involved in, for families and communities to get involved in. But there really isn't anything for if the student does something, if they get into trouble and they need to be suspended, what can happen instead. This curriculum takes care of that. This curriculum will meet that need. Suspension is probably one of the biggest things, one of the biggest problems facing education today. And one of those reasons, besides the loss of academic time, is the loss of money. School districts across the country are losing millions and millions of dollars every year. They're losing money in revenue, and they're losing money in administrative time. The amount of hours that it takes for an administrator to deal with the situation, and then once the student is suspended, the parent has to be called. The student has to be put someplace, so they're just being watched, but the student isn't doing anything, and then they're sent home. So not only is it a loss of revenue for the schools, but the schools are paying for students to be in school, and they're not being reimbursed. So when a student is sick, or in this case suspended, the school's not reimbursed by the state. So this is lost money. So in addition to the administrative time, now you've got a loss of revenue, and this is millions and millions of dollars per year. In education, a really important piece for a program to be successful is that it's evidence-based. Now, I've been piloting this program for 2 years in my school, and it seems to have been a really positive outcome. But that wasn't enough to make sure that it was working. So what I did is I approached Loyola University of Chicago, a professor who works there, and asked her would she be willing to research and evaluate my program. And we've been very pleased with preliminary results. Basically what they say is that any student who was in the Bridges program had a longer time before they reoffended than a student who was not in Bridges program. So if a student was in Bridges, they had on average about 60 days before a second incident occurred. Students who were just suspended or refused the Bridges program had on average 20 days before they reoffended. So it was a much longer time in between offenses. And they also found in the preliminary results that students who were in Bridges were less likely after second Bridges to have another offense, whereas students who refused Bridges always had a third offense. And so preliminary results have been really positive, and Loyola is going to continue to research the program. I've taken all of this information and compiled it into a curriculum, and now the curriculum is a book. The book, Building Bridges, an Alternative to School Suspension, is available. You can purchase it on Amazon. In addition, In the curriculum, in the book, are the thinking sheets, and there's two different types of thinking sheets, and there's different levels of thinking sheets. There's the worksheets, and there's the scenarios. In the book, there's 51 scenarios. They're the most common scenarios that I found over the last 26 years. However, if you have a situation at your school that you've come across and it's not in my book, and if you submit that situation to me, I will take that situation and I will make it into a scenario and I'll send it back to you. I'm also available as a consultant to come out to your school to set up a program. If you want to reduce suspension, save your district money, and help students stay in school, contact me.
This video about building bridges, an alternative to school suspension, is offered as a jumping-off point for parents and educators to continue or begin their own conversation about alternatives to school suspension.
In CIA Psychic Teens Book 2, our team of teenage psychic undercover agents encounter a new set of challenges and face new dangers. Aurora, who is still in love with Captain Scott, is anxious to pose as his wife during their assignment to prevent an attempt on the life of the Soviet premier. The team is joined by a new member, John Holmes, who they've nicknamed Sherlock, a perceptive young man who has used his forensic talents to solve a number of cold case files and aid the FBI in the identification and arrest of 2 mass murderers. An excellent marksman, he is the only member of the team certified to carry a sidearm. The team's first assignment is to expose a mole at the FBI, responsible for the failure of a number of operations which have resulted in the death of several agents. When Shane and Alyssa's parents are kidnapped by the Sandinista guerrillas, the psychic teens head to Honduras to bring them back. While there, John steps in to save Aurora from a vicious shark attack, all while squeezing in a little time for fun in the sun. Meanwhile, Kim Chu-bong, a North Korean psychic and adversary of Becky's, releases a virulent microbe that has the potential of being fatal to anyone who encounters it. This vengeful episode threatens an entire military base and gives readers a surprising insight into Becky's dedication. In the course of locating a terrorist-planted nuclear bomb, originally destined to be detonated within the borders of the U.S., Lexi is forced to shoot a Korean agent in order to save John. In Book 2, you will follow the CIA psychic teens on an astonishing, wild ride through turbulent times, which are a true testament to the bravery, patriotism, and camaraderie between these 7 unique young psychics, working hard for peace and freedom while looking out for each other's safety. Order your copy of CIA Psychic Teens Book 2 today.
Welcome to the Author Showcase Meetup Club here at the Roots Room. And today we have a number of people that are going to be talking about some books that they've read. And we've got an author with us today who is Eileen Ladin Panzer, who's going to be talking about her new book, A Life Less Lived. And so that's going to be our program for tonight.
It's about growing up in the 1940s and 1950s in an immigrant Jewish family. So as a Chicago native, there's quite a bit about Chicago in there. And there's some very serious things. Among them are mental illness and talk about luck, morality, fate, and there's a very large discussion, which to me is central to the book, and that takes place around the Passover Seder table. And I think everybody knows, but the Seder is the yearly celebration of the Jewish people's release from bondage in Egypt. And so this talk takes place around the table. And some guys, they work all the time, all their lives. And what do they have in the end? Nothing. Gross. A guy like him, no matter what pile he falls into, he comes out smelling sweet. Luck. That's what it is. All this fancy talk about God and limits and all that junk, it don't mean nothing. What's God ever do for anybody? People believe in God, so what? God don't help. Believing in God is all right, but what's God going to do? A guy has luck or not, that's all. God don't make anybody's luck. Stupid talk. Religion and expecting things from it and paying rabbis and marking the same stuff kosher for Passover. And then his sister-in-law, Karen, who's also one of the participants, here's what she says about luck. To a large extent, people make their own luck. You have to fight to get what you want, and you can't let anything stand in your way. Yes, but there's an element of luck, of timing involved in things. You can twist them and shape them if you're strong enough to do it. My father believed that, and he came from Poland and was very successful here, and I believe it too. And Evelyn, who's a child in the story, is sent to the corner store to buy a couple of things, and the corner mom and pop store is what there was in those days, and most people shop daily or every other day for what they needed. And her mother has told her that President Roosevelt has just died. And she says, and she's thinking about it, and she says on impulse, she turned to one of the waiting people. Roosevelt is dead. I know, Evie, I heard it on the radio. It's terrible. Yeah, he was a good man for the people. Why did he have to die? Can we win the war now? Everybody dies. He had a hard job. He couldn't take it no more. We'll win the war. You'll see. We're right. That Hitler, the bloodsucker. At the thought of Hitler, the voice of the woman trailed off. Her thoughts were of the family left behind in Poland, as a suppressed wonder of Hitler's mad boldness rose to the top of her mind. She wondered in a flickering instant if the concentration camp stories were true. No, they were not, she told herself firmly. They could not be. But who will be president now? The thought of the book is in a couple of independent bookstores. It's at the Holocaust Museum. It is available on Kindle. And my website is Eileen, Ladin-Panzer.com.
The Healing Powers of Coffee is percolating with information about the world's favorite new health food. This personable, reader-friendly, revolutionary book includes interviews with medical doctors, researchers, and coffee roasters who reveal the amazing healing powers of the delicious brew, served up with a lively jolt of past and present coffee culture. The path to better health and well-being is right under your nose. Whether you prefer regular or decaf or flavored coffees, recent studies have shown that coffee's magical beans can reduce your risk of cancer, heart disease, and diabetes, as well as help you slim down and shape up. Wake up and smell the coffee, then serve yourself a steaming cup of comfort, filled with more antioxidants than tea or cocoa, and even more than renowned antioxidant-rich blueberries or oranges. In the Healing Powers of Coffee, you'll find the author's exclusive, eye-opening, warm and witty real-life stories, more than 50 home cures that fight brain fog, fatigue, headache, jet lag, low libido, moodiness, muscle pain, and stress. Plus, beauty and anti-aging treatments and eco-friendly household uses. Find out why this ancient elixir has gone from vice to virtue, and how to incorporate coffee in Mediterranean-style healthful recipes, like cappuccino biscotti, coffee chili, Java-style stuffed bell peppers, plus do-it-yourself espresso drinks. Brew a pot of your favorite blend, nature's surprising superfood, and enjoy reading The Healing Powers of Coffee. Available now at your favorite bookseller. Maximum Fitness, Minimum Risk. New and revised is a simple how-to wellness guide for folks with heart disease, diabetes, or COPD. If you want to successfully manage your illness, if you want to be in charge of your life, this book is for you. Maximum Fitness, Minimum Risk is a user-friendly, fun guide that shows how you can reclaim you, even with chronic illness. If you have diabetes, heart disease, or COPD, you can work towards personal wellness and reach your individual optimal fitness and health potential safely. And you can have fun doing it. Maximum Fitness, Minimum Risk will acquaint you with a safe, medically managed wellness exercise program that accommodates your health issues. This user-friendly, step-by-step book is an invitation for you to begin a wellness adventure. Maximum Fitness, Minimum Risk is your guide to action in adversity and can be downloaded immediately as an ebook at Amazon.com. Get it now for yourself or someone you love. Sexual Enlightenment provides a guide for anyone looking to bring lasting fulfillment into their lives, relationships, and work. Introducing cutting-edge principles and inspiring practices of how to access innate creative energy. Listen to the wisdom of the heart and connect with the power of the conscious mind. The authors offer a roadmap that can alter and enlighten the way you look at sexual energy, love, and your conscious self. Access peace and joy anytime and anywhere by calming the unending chatter in your mind. Bring pleasure into your daily life by tapping into your creative life force energy. Come into balance, creating the life and relationships you always wanted. Now available at Amazon.com, Tantranova.com, and fine bookstores everywhere. Please be sure to send your feedback by visiting authorsbroadcast.com. We also invite you to download our free mobile app so you can interact with us and watch episodes of Author Showcase on your smartphone or tablet. This is a perfect option for both our Chicago viewers and our nationwide audience watching us online or at YouTube to watch past episodes, current episodes, and future episodes of Author Showcase as they're presented. The free mobile app is available at iTunes for Apple devices and Google Play for Android. Simply search Authors Broadcast. In addition to watching book-related videos, you'll also have easy access to our Facebook page and a comprehensive list of book events happening nationwide. So if you're an author or book lover, grab your smartphone or tablet, go to your app store and search Authors Broadcast now. Then let us know what you're reading and what you think of our show. Thanks for watching Author Showcase.